I can't believe it. Our final moment with Baxter. Am I going on a little trip? But where to? Well, you have to come with us to find out. No two summer evenings in Sunset Bed look quite the same. Not downtown, not at the beaches, and not on a street where only the change anyone had seen in years was the arrival of a new tourist. Though you hadn't seen any stars in the sky, you knew the day was almost over from the sound of chirping crickets. Shadows of swaying branches were stretching across the grass. Well, probably. You hadn't gotten the chance to experience the sunset before you got pulled into whatever this was, while trying to clarify your plans for tomorrow with Baxter. I also just remembered, I didn't save from when I last finished up episode 21. I recorded that before this. Shh. He paced back and forth between a pair of half-packed or half-unpacked, depending on how someone saw it, suitcases. Piles of folded clothes were abandoned on the bed. I want to do you laid out across the top of the bed closest to the headboard, but we would guess ordered with socks. I don't know if we would guess ordered with socks if we did the corner of the mattress. Oh, that I want to be useful. You helped pick up a few things. Okay. I had a drink and my neutral voice has just disappeared. Forgive me a second. You helped pick up a few things. Baxter left laying around on the floor. There we go. He insisted that he would clean up after himself, but you didn't want to be idle, and Baxter wasn't about to turn away a helping hand, least of all yours. This wasn't the first time you'd been the condo. Baxter invited you over before, but so far that had been the first floor. You're in the master bedroom now. As a kid, the condo was the equivalent of Fox Knox, no way in, and if someone did no way in, and if someone unwanted did sneak inside, there was probably no way out. It wasn't worth the risk. Being in that room was closer to a fantasy than it was reality, as much as someone could dream about being in a rental bedroom anyway. And yet, here you were, all thanks to Baxter, who didn't seem to realize the gravity of the situation. One of the doors to the armoire, his word for it, was ajar. So isn't it armoire, the closet? Is it a fancy word for the closet? And if so, what language uses the word armoire? I'm googling that now. My curiosity has been piqued. It is. It is a wardrobe. An armoire is a special type of wardrobe that can serve a number of purposes. Oh my. Ah, it's French. That makes sense, I guess. Hangers rattled from the excessive force Baxter used to remove a few of his jackets. Honestly, you weren't sure why he packed them all. It never got cold enough anywhere in Southern California to wear It never got cold enough anywhere in Southern California to wear outerwear during the winter, never mind the summer. And yet, he still brought them, no matter how much he was convinced otherwise.
So?
It will be cooler in temperature, but just barely. While we won't be seeing any snow, I would suggest you bring a jacket and a pair of sturdy shoes. He pulled another zipper on one of the suitcases, peering into its contents, but not deeply investigating for long before he moved on to the next thing. A drawer filled with nothing that he abruptly shut. He waded past the only part of his wardrobe that remained neat in place. Formal clothes. The suit he wore to the interactive play was perfectly arranged You said any minute. In the case was another legal emergency. Baxter hesitated before leaving that be. His fingers grazed on the top of the comforter as he passed. He went through an increasingly erratic disaster area to look for something else that he hadn't made clear to you. It seemed that until now Baxter had been living out of his suitcases, which wasn't ordinarily strike you as a problem, until he said he needed at least one of them to be empty. If only so he could relocate his things from one to another. He was certain that he would need no more than an afternoon to pack before you had arrived. But there were only some things in this world that not even the likes of Baxter Ward handled with grace and posture. Mornings were one. Mornings were one. Personal organizations was another.
I apologize.
I must apologize. He stopped in place. The corners of his eyes softened as he turned to you. Brows knit together, even as he busied his hands with folding a pair of pants, only to immediately throw it into the suitcase. I realize this can't be terribly entertaining. Don't worry about it. He didn't need to apologize. There wasn't any problem waiting, and besides, it was more amusing than he gave credit for. That is one of your charming points. In for a penny, in for a pound. He chuckled, shaking his head with quiet amusement. Content with your reply, he went back to unconsciously constructing a labyrinth of his possessions. I wondered how he fit everything into 2 suitcases to begin with. This entire situation made about as much sense as everything else. Around him, which was to say maybe a quarter of it, followed any linear train of thought. The rest left much to be desired. Baxter had a tendency to work through things in some sort of circuitous sense, his own logic that he used to explain things as a matter of fact. So much so, you couldn't help but just take him on his word, even if the details only made themselves clearer later. What was happening now was even more convoluted than normal. The first point, Baxter very suddenly announced he was going on a vacation away from his vacation. A 3-day and 2-night jaunt to a mountain lodge, a handful of hours away by his judgment. Plans were already underway as soon as he figured out where he was staying in California. It made sense if he was trying to get more bang for his buck for his experience in the area, but that wasn't the main reason. The second point, it was family tradition happening without his family. He and his parents always went to the Rockies in the summer, except this time he was staying in California. Baxter decided to make a trip out to the mountains here regardless. And that was also fine, except he wasn't prepared for the trip at all. He would have thought that someone else planned when and where it would be happening, the way he was rushing around the condo trying to pack, and trying to remember what to pack. And point 3, the most peculiar. He rented a second room in the lodge, despite coming here alone and intended to visit no one in particular. He did have some acquaintances in the state, but none of them were people he wanted to take a trip with. Audaciously, after explaining the situation, he asked you to take up the free room without missing a beat. You, a person who had dated him for all of half a second. A couple trip was the kind of thing that was more appropriate for months down the line, something that meant a relationship is steady. But apparently being together was all that was plenty enough for Baxter. The weekend was free, and your moms were able to accept the idea of you going. Going up to the mountains to stay in a lodge was a cool enough opportunity. It wasn't the kind of trip you and your family took. Not that you'd taken many trips since your breaks got busier, and Liz moved away, so the prospect of traveling anywhere farther than the city was exciting, even if the entire situation was pretty absurd. Negotiating with your moms went better than expected. They hadn't vetoed it immediately because you were an adult, but because they weren't excited about the idea. It was one thing that you were going on a trip with the usual cast of suspects. But Baxter, a guy you basically met the other day, he was polite and well spoken. However, your moms didn't know his parents. A rule you thought was obsolete once you were in high school, but not when it came to overnight trips. They eventually gave their blessings when Liz took your side in the discussion. He was convinced by the fact that you'd be staying in an entirely separate room to him. Having a second room just because seemed like a Baxter thing to do. Baxter's hands stored over the suitcase he was bringing on the trip. He brushed his hair into place, turning to his side in search of another misplaced necessity. Just in case it doesn't get mentioned now, basically, he booked in advance for 2 rooms, and it's a 48-hour cancellation fee. I mean, free cancellation. I think that's what I'm getting at. It's been a while since I played this specific moment. I'm hoping it pops up so it explains it clearer than my own words. That basically sums it up.
Of course.
Yeah, it's gonna pop up. I should have seen this one coming. I thought there was a possibility I might make friends during my stay here. There was no guarantee, of course. I wouldn't hope to make any presumptions there. His gaze wandered, lips tightening at the corners of his mouth involuntarily. His contemplative expression faltered as he looked up from his suitcase to you. But I thought that if I did, then the trip would not be made exceptionally better with company. If not, so be it. Acquiring a room is the difficult part. A reservation needs to be made in weeks in advance, whereas cancelling one only needs a notice of 48 hours or more. It's taken off the bill, no questions asked. Realistically, I only needed 2 days to know if I was going alone or with company.
See?
That was the case with you, was it not? You're so over the top, you know that, he chuckled. Me? There's thoughts. He snickered under his breath, continuing to search through his bag for the treasure. Baxter went to packing. Though his suitcases looked to be middling in quantities, more than they had been earlier in the evening. He glanced over his shoulder at you, a black shirt folded in his hands, as neatly as any store display you'd seen in your life. This might not be an ideal time to ask, but as we are speaking about the trip, I did want to ask is where your personal boundaries lie, Callie. I am deeply appreciative of your mother's approval, but what I am comfortable with may not merit what they are comfortable with. You only need to say so if you're in agreement with their preferences, but if not, Baxter had a tendency to act older than he actually was. It was times like this, when he smiled entirely too mischievously, that you were reminded that he was barely any older than you.
Well,
I may forget by the time we get there. Conspiratorial looks were exchanged from across the room as you smiled, crookedly. Baxter was a real one when it came down to it. Moms were hoping Liz could come along too, so I wouldn't be alone. He didn't look surprised by the suggestion, apparently aware of how it must have, and certainly did come off your parents, to invite their youngest on an overnight trip. But she argued that I wasn't going out of state, and I'm not still a kid. I just have to call Liz every day, and I mean call. He won't let me get away with texting. What if it's like a voice note? Sure, it's not a call. You can't really fake a voice note either. Never mind, AIs exist. Screw that. Yeah, phone calls are a lot better, but you can also get scammed. And AI also exists. If I don't, she said she'll call the hotel instead, and the police and anyone with a phone number to report that Pepe Le Pew was on the loose. Baxter snorted. Not laughed. Vaughn snorted. He covered his mouth, quickly avoiding your gaze, as he had to resist the urge to laugh harder. You didn't know whether he had seen the original cartoons, or one of the more recent uses of the character, but he definitely got the reference. For those who don't know, I will put up a picture, because I didn't know and had to Google search who Pepe Le Pew was. I was prepared to give your sister my thanks for convincing your mothers, but it appears everyone has notes on my man's address these days. Yeah, Mom joked that those old-fashioned black and white striped jumpsuits inmates wore would match your hair. You know, if Liz did call the police on you. How clever. Is a black and white tie out of vogue, Callie? You aren't wearing a tie. Trying to suppress a grin. That was nigh impossible, especially after reliving the conversation about his vague resemblance to an aggressively forward skunk and a criminal. Baxter chuckled as he put away another pair of pants, a number of which he had lost count of as he went back and forth.
Charming.
Your family is quite charming, and I do agree that it's only fair. Try to keep in touch with them while you're away. I'll trust you care for my fate enough to do that much. Yeah, it sucks, but I'll call him. Liz wasn't joking. Please do. The university won't be understanding if I return late due to incarnation. In, incarceration. Incarnation. And that's something else. The itinerary for the trips were The itinerary for the trip was straightforward enough that Baxter didn't need to look at his laptop to read the details. He kept to his work on the suitcases. Check-in wasn't until 4 p.m. at the earliest, and the drive wasn't so significant that you'd be going for as long as you feared. So, the plan was to leave at noon, find dinner somewhere in the area when you got there, and then check into the lodge for the evening. The first day would begin there. The second would be exploring the area in earnest. Then the third would be taking the morning easy before checking out at noon to head back home. Well, for you, vacation home with Baxter. It was perfect. It was perfectly reasonable, according to him. He wouldn't be overextending himself to prepare either of the He wasn't overextending himself to prepare on either the big driving days, and you'd have a good enough time in the lodge. Besides, if you drove that much early in the morning, you were pretty confident you would make it back in one piece. Upon further inspection of Baxter's own supplies, there were a few things left to pack, and a few small things you'd need to buy. I don't suppose we'll need any formal wear, really. But on the off chance that we'll have dinner at a restaurant, that necessitates that. We'll have dinner at a restaurant that necessitates that. I think I'll be okay with that. But I'll see you tomorrow, Baxter. I gotta pack too. Good luck. As you started to make your way out to Mom's bedroom, his head snapped up.
See you.
Oh, of course. I'll see you tomorrow, Callie. Have a good evening. Morning came uneventfully. To say the warning from your family about how they deploy a full-fledged investigation team the minute that something seemed off. You agreed that you'd call daily, but it didn't do much to dissuade the endless worrying. This didn't pull any punches either, at least of all after your family helped you load your things in the back of Baxter's car. Ma and Liz pulled you into a hug as Mom shut the trunk with a click of finality before she joined in the squeeze. Don't forget I'm watching him, Callie. Well, I'll come get you if you need me to. Just say the word. It doesn't matter when, okay? I know. Your family meant well. But it wasn't as if you couldn't forget after the 900th time they reminded you to call and check in with them. Liz snickered as the three of them continued to hold you in a crushing hug.
Good.
Well, if you know, then don't be surprised when it. Well, if you know, then don't be surprised by what happens when you don't. I can't believe I'm going to get hunted for sport. He beamed cheekily in reply, elbowing you in the ribs.
What a pickle.
Right. I just got to do that job, but Baxter. You'll be okay with that child, won't you? You could see what their faces looked like because of the way they held you. However, you could hear the apprehension in Baxter's tense laugh.
I can do that.
Of course. You have my words, ma'ams. A perfectly gentlemanly response from him, as always. As you are freed, Baxter made his way to the passenger side. He opened the door for you with a sweep of his arm. Bye! Mums and Liz waved you off as you slid into the car, shutting the door behind you. As soon as the seatbelts clicked and the engine roared to life, you reversed out of the driveway and rumbled from the neighborhood to the freeway. So was Baxter's car just parked in our house's driveway then? Oh, I can imagine that. Also, look how pretty the sky looks! With all the shades of purple, pinks, and light oranges. So cute! The familiar sound of sunset bird eventually gave way to I gotta go around this word. Prism Vista City, then to the open space between here and there. You couldn't smell the salt in the air anymore, and for a moment it felt odd to remember there wasn't any prison everywhere that you went, even in the same state. The radio settled to classical music that gave a nice backtrack to Baxter's storytelling about the trips he had taken with his parents to the Rocky Mountain. Those memories gave an idea of what to expect when you arrived at the cabin. Even though he glazed over some of the details, he mentioned other experiences, one of which included getting chased across a river by what he and his family thought was a bear, but turned out to be a particularly chubby dog who wanted to be friends. You contributed to the conversation. You recently went on a trip with Cove to Nevada to visit his mom. Actually listened to yep. A stool. Flipped. I know. Baxter listened as attentively as you'd listened to him. He'd been to Nevada before, but the heat was miserable for someone like him. The ride was as smooth as it could be, except for the occasional congestion of traffic. That was always inevitable this time of year. Baxter wasn't the only tourist. Eventually, the massive freeways came down to 2 lanes as the elevation grew steeper and steeper. Roads cut through canyons, giving a scenic view. You texted your friends and family between conversations and sightseeing until you lost signal. By the time you hit your first official checkpoint, it was late in the day. You stopped at a roadside diner for a bite to eat before finishing the last leg of the trip. You offered to drive, but Baxter waved it off. It was already enough that you came at all. Making conversation with you was less of a dull task, so he didn't mind. Maybe it was better that way, since Baxter was renting it. If anything did happen, it would complicate the matters if he wasn't driving. After the short final stretch, the car rolled to a stop at the front of a massive bulk hotel. It towered over your head when you stepped out of the vehicle. Baxter handed the keys to the attending valet. The lodge was somehow both rustic and fancy at the same time. For an oversized wooden cabin, the doors had a big elaborate route handles that you were pretty sure would have cost a pretty penny. It appears we have arrived. Baxter rounded his car with the bags in hand, smiling comfortably as you stood there empty-handed and staring at the building. Really? I thought we were making a pit stop. Oh, then you'll be shocked that they at your hotel. The steps are paved in gold. Are you serious?
No.
I am not. You both carried your things into the lobby. You hadn't brought enough with you that you'd need to make a second trip. And after that consternation in his bedroom, Max had managed to shave everything he needed down to one bag and suitcase. The lobby was as big as the front desk. The lobby was as big as the front of the building suggested. Light piano music tinkled in the background, and an traditional chandelier hung from the ceiling, sunlight shining through the glass doors and reflecting on the careful cut stonework. And for those who want to see it without the text, you'll have to suffer with me in the corner. It is very backstory, to say the least. I could picture his childhood home kind of like this. A fireplace burned in the far end of the lobby, for whom you could only presume to be guests. Despite all the chairs and couches available for them, there was scarcely a soul. It wasn't cozy, not the way you had expected it to be, given Baxter described it as a mountain lodge. It was big and impressive. Even the stairwell seemed more fitting for a medieval castle than a homely cabin in the woods. To one side, the front desk was occupied by staff who was busy helping with a large party. We may be waiting a while. Why don't we set these down? He tugged at the strap of the crossbody bag he had over his shoulder and lifted a suitcase in his hand, gesturing to you to follow the nearest opening seating area, which was all of them. Footsteps echoed in the carnivorous room, and when your bags hit the ground, the sound of that did too. Baxter opted to set his bags in one of the chairs instead of sitting. He had been stuck in a car for so long. He didn't make a point of stretching his legs slow. Ostensibly, because that would have looked overly casual for a man such as him.
What do you think?
So, now you've got a look. What's your opinion on our temporary abode? It's incredible. I couldn't imagine it would be like this. I'm glad to hear it suits your tastes. He turned his attention to the front desk. Though the situation hadn't improved at all, there were no signs of it clearing up now or in the near future. Callie, would you mind if I made a phone call? I'm considering making a call to my mother.
Honestly?
I do not keep my parents appraised of my day-to-day life, but I do believe they'll be glad to know that I arrived at this secondary vacation. His gaze dropped to the floor as he hand idly sneaked to his pocket to fish out his phone. His formerly polite smile became crooked. I'm not so bad a son that I can't grant them that. Yeah, don't mind me. Thank you. It won't be more than 5 minutes. Officially withdrawing his phone, Baxter promptly brought up his contacts and made the call. A hand rested on his hip while the other held the device to his ear. His head craned back towards the high ceiling as he awaited the dial tone for a voice. Too soft for you to hear, but loud enough for you to register, greeted Baxter. Hello, Mother. It's nice to speak with you. We've arrived at the hotel. The drive went well. He glanced over his shoulder at you, before lightly pressing his index finger to his lips, as if to hush you before he could think of saying something. You couldn't help but wonder if she caught onto the we, considering Baxter had come to the state alone in the first place.
Yes.
Yes. I have Callie with me, my neighbor here. Hi, Miss Ward, you shouted. His soft brown eyes lit up with new warmth. Not expected you to have taken interest. Callie says hello, Mother. He nodded as she said something in response to him. However, his attention didn't move from you, as the conversation continued on her end. He lightly covered the phone with his hand. She says hello too, Callie. He smirked while his mother continued on his silence. He wasn't honestly sure that he was listening enough to have caught what she said. This was the closest approximation you'd ever gone to a vague concept that was Baxter's parents. And it seemed like such a small thing watching as he spoke to one of them over the phone. Felt so radically different than I did with your other friends. He knew Kyra and Mr. Holden. Why? Don't you have to keep rolling in, Mr. Holden? Oh, Dad! Oh, Cleef! Just like you knew Derek and Randy and Terry's parents. All you heard about Baxter's parents, other than they were educated and old-fashioned, was they didn't mind sending Baxter off to Sunset Bud for the summer. They wouldn't see him this season, so you wouldn't see them. You had to wonder if someday you'd get the chance to meet them, or speak to them directly. It didn't seem like a priority for Baxter. They were only dating for a little while, though. So, maybe it was enough to just let them know you existed in the first place. After a few, and yeses, Baxter's attention shifted to the front desk, which slowly became vacant by the previous group. Ah, Mother. This was lovely, but I do have to take my leave. Take care.
Oh, yes.
You too. And with only a brief goodbye, he hung up, talked at his phone. He turned toward you, picked up his bag and suitcase. Shall we go check in? Yeah. You traveled after him with your own luggage. The hotel receptionist smiled from behind the wide counter. Her eyes somewhat weary from the day's work. Could relate to the exhaustion of having to deal with a large mass of needy people, and sent a silent wish that the rest of her day would be uneventful. Good evening. The receptionist nodded, offering her own greeting in reply, before asking if you were both checking in. Exactly. I would appreciate your assistance in doing so. The reservation should be the 2 rooms under Baxter Ward. Handing over his driver's license and credit card, the receptionist made quick work of their computer system, and slid 2 pairs of plastic keycards through the machine. You're going to be in room 194, and Baxter is going to have the room next to you, 193. You picked up a map and drew a few arrows and lines. You were directed to take the left and head up to the elevator or take the stairs to the 2nd floor. With the keys and map handed off, you and Baxter departed from the front desk. So, did you want to take the elevator or the stairs? You realized that Baxter didn't immediately follow. You turned back to him as he caught up, gesturing for you to wait. He dug out one of his keycards and offered it to you.
Now.
Elevator. Yeah, it may not be necessary, but I would be happy to let you have it in case. Yeah, thanks. I'll take it. Do you want one of my cards too? Baxter gratefully took your card in hand. Please have good faith in the matter. The executive decision was made to take the elevator up to the next floor, give Noel the bags. Truthfully, with only a night's worth of clothes and supplies, they weren't that heavy. What was more, it was only a floor up, but they installed an elevator for a reason, hadn't they? It'd be a shame to not put that hard work to use. The halls were there. The halls of the hotel were wide. It was easy enough for 2 people to pass through the group beside each other, though you and Baxter had to sidestep, make room for others occasionally. As you approached the end of the path where your rooms sat beside one another, Baxter withdrew his keycard and held it against the lock. The fluid practiced motion. Would it be alright if we met later this evening? It was a long drive, and I, at least, am in no hurry off to the next activity. You waved your hand to dispel any concerns, both real and imagined. Yeah, that's fine. I'll see you soon.
Excellent.
Excellent. Take care, neighbor. He winked, laughing as he disappeared inside his room and shut the door with a click. Tapping your card against the lock, he followed suit. In comparison to the hotel foyer, the room was cozier, but not by much. It was much less grand in scale. This is beautiful! I would kill to have a room kind of like this, actually. Minus the carpet. I don't like the carpet. I think that's the... Oh, and the curtains. They're like the only two things I don't like about this room. Everything else is so nice and cute. I love the paintings on the wall. They are of flowers. We have a vase of flowers. I would not be able to tell you what kind of flowers they're because I am not a flower expert. But if those who know the types of flowers in this room, do feel free to comment down below. Assuming you got this far, that is. Yeah, I think we have to continue. One wall was laid precisely with wooden planks. At the center of the room, the headboard of a single king-size bed was situated by some nondescript painting. It didn't seem cramped, in part because of the glass doors that led out onto the balcony, and because of the nearby windows, which meant more light came into the room. It was bright even without the lamps on. In the breeze of the quiet evening in the mountains, the braves waved to say hello. Setting down your stuff, you started to unpack toiletries and clothes before setting down for a plug at the nightstand for your phone charger. As you unpacked and the sunrays slid further out of the room, it occurred to you that you owed a call to your loved ones. Any further delay might have led to officers busting down the door. And it was hand-carved mahogany. Maybe. It didn't take more than a couple of clicks through your contacts to pull up Liz's number. He had been one of the last people you were texting on your way out before the signal cut in the first place. The phone rang for a second before your sister's voice came through the other line, without an exaggeration. There was an exaggeration in her tone, a sense of suspicion. I pulled my mic off. My dressing gown. Callie, this better not be... Oh my god, I was reading the next part of this. Callie, this better be you and not some impersonator. I'm on to you, Ward, if that is in fact your real name. Jack Hughes. This is what I get for calling. Come on, Liz, you know it's really me. Baxter wouldn't do that. Come on, Liz, you know it's really me. Baxter wouldn't do that.
No.
And how would I know that? I can't take you on your word. That is exactly what he would say about himself. I don't know how else to prove to you that it's me, Liz. I do. What was the pattern on my favorite, most special summer dress when we were kids? Sunflowers. There you have it. Proven you're real. She sighed, and you could hear the muffled sound of her hair brushing against the phone. I should incorporate sunflowers into my look again. That dress was so cute. Moving on, I'm glad you got there safe and sound enough that you were keeping up with me. I don't know how that Baxter guy... I still don't know about that Baxter guy. He seems... Oh my god. He's too formal and stiff for someone younger than me. But I guess he got you there in one piece. How's the lodge? It's pretty incredible. I had no idea they had hotels like this. There was a huge chandelier in the lobby, impressive doors, and...
Why?
Jeez, sounds ritzy. What kind of mountain lodge has a chandelier? This kind. At least you'll get put up somewhere nice. Do they give out sparkling water too? I don't know. Your older sister listened with the intensity of someone still handling an interrogation. This will do. Just make sure to have some fun for the rest of us, alright? Take pictures. Mom's already starting Mom's already started asking why you haven't sent any. They want to see the inside of a car.
Right?
That's what I said. The conversation trailed on longer, Liz weighing in on speakerphone with what the conversation had been my god. Liz weighing in on the speakerphone with what had been going on at home since you left. You mentioned Poe stopped by at some point to drop something off from his dad, and told her to tell you he said hi. Eventually, Liz tapped it off at the mention of her own sleepiness. She helpfully reminded you to go and get some rest before adding that you needed to call her again tomorrow. The phone was promptly tossed aside in favor of preparing for the night. Then, a gentle knock came at your door. Baxter, presumably. Baxter correctly, as he was the only person standing there in the doorway once you opened it. Hi, come on in. Bowing his head as he stepped inside, he offered a thanks for being quick with the invitation, instead of making him stand in the hallway. Report in with Commander in charge. There will be no hunting tonight. Good. I'll remain on my best behavior to avoid throwing any sisterly ire. Yeah, don't worry too much about that red dot on your forehead. The curve of Baxter's smile widened while he took a quick look around your room. It couldn't be all that different from his own, but he regarded it as though it were.
So?
It appears you're sounding quite nicely. It's late, so I won't keep you, but I did want to discuss our plans for tomorrow. Feel free to enjoy yourself in the morning without worrying about accommodation. It should be easy to explore the town if you want, but the lodge has some amenities you could also try if you're interested. There's a gym around, I believe, along with a pool and complimentary breakfast if you're up early enough for it. As for the afternoon, evening, and night, I'd be pleased if we could spend it together. Not hoping for a morning call from yours truly. Baxter didn't do early mornings, or mornings in general. There was no skin off your bones to let him sleep in, especially considering that this was supposed to be a vacation. Well, it was also a vacation for Baxter, but the rationale held. He was always so considerate of you that it stood the reason to do the same for him. He nervously ran a hand through his hair before a semblance of his Baxterward patented confidence returned to his
I
features.
appreciate the understanding.
I thank you for your consideration. As for what we'll do tomorrow, how would you feel about a hike? There's a lovely trail that starts directly from here. It loops around the forest at the back, then returns us to where we started. It's a bit of a longer path, so we could pack a lunch with us to take on the way. I can have it ordered and delivered ahead of time. You loved hiking, so you're on board. You loved hiking, so you're more than on board with that plan. I personally hate hiking, but we're doing the opposite of me. There we go. I finished hydrating, and you guys should probably also hydrate. Let's do it! He smiled graciously. Baxter had his heart set on that outing, clearly. You made his day by joining the adventure.
Goodbye for today.
I'll look forward to it then. With that, Baxter took his leave after offering a quiet good night. There were a few hours left before you had to be in bed, so you saw the first night of what continued to be a surreal experience. And this is nighttime. Literally, the lights are on. It was spent peacefully, and then you drifted into an equally gentle dream. The sun peeked through the sheer curtains, the first part of the day to greet you as you woke up in a sprawling bed that wasn't your own. I don't know if we closed the curtains or not, because they're already drawn. So, my theory is they just didn't want to have closed curtains drawn for this, because it would just be a bit weird, or something like that. I don't know. Now, step 2, we hated the morning, but I think I've altered between early bird catches the worm and morning. Your eyes hadn't even opened. Getting up early was for morning people. I know in Drive I certainly was an early morning person because, wow, we had to help Curve. So, yeah. An hour or two or more passed before you considered leaving the safety of the sheets. But once you managed to unearth yourself from the blankets and wake up a bit, you went through your morning routine and considered the possibilities for the time that remained. Baxter wouldn't meeting up with you until around the afternoon. Your growling stomach made the decision for you. First thing on the agenda was getting breakfast. Fortunately, the employees at the hotel were the flexible sort when it came to when breakfast hours were. Food was still available when you arrived. By the time your hunger was satiated, Baxter hadn't contacted you. You left the hotel and went to see what was nearby. It was probably best not to wander too far in case Baxter was around earlier than you expected, but it was worth seeing what was around and snapping them pictures. Heading out towards the front door of the hotel and down the steps you went down, the roads towards the nearby town that you and Baxter passed through on your way here. Most of it was the same from what you'd see in the car. Down the stores, saw the typical chucks and souvenirs. I've never seen that word before. Well, I actually had to pronounce it. While window shopping, you managed to find some name keychains for your friends and family back home. Oh man, oh, maybe one day you'll find a keychain for them. So your own name doesn't have a name populated enough, or at least not that I've seen. But I did find a magnet with my name, and I knew that I had to buy it because I'd never seen my name on anything before. And I also have like a keychain somewhere that has my IRL name on it as well from my nan and granddad because I've never seen my name on anything really. So it's pretty cool to see and have that on something I look at every freaking. I don't know where that gold keychain is. It's not real gold though. That'd be a bit too expensive. It's gold look-alike anyway. But I don't know if it was like custom made. So, but like my point of getting onto this topic is like our character could just custom make Nolani and Cove a keychain or a magnet for them. Maybe not a magnet, a keychain definitely. By the time 11 rolled around, your phone hummed with a new text from Baxter. It was as formally worded as ever. Good afternoon, Callie. I will be ready for our hike shortly. I hope the amenities were to your liking. Awesome! Yeah, I'll get ready too. And yeah, choices. This place has a lot going on. Wonderful. I've enjoyed how responsive you are. That can go two ways, and I do not need my mind going there. It hasn't so far, but it was close to. I mean, he's intact. I'm pretty sure. Oh, wait. I guess I could actually just spell, but I'll be ordering the lunch in the interim. I thought sandwiches might suit our activities for the day. It should be easy to bring along and find to eat cold. I would advise straying away from the convenience for that reason. I will send along the menu shortly. Let me know what you'd prefer. Just as promised, Baxter's attached the perfectly formatted dark PDF with set options, which seemed increasingly more complex the more you scrolled down the menu. There were options for next to everything. What bread, what fillings, what cheeses, what spreads. There was enough to make you forget what was available in the category as soon as you moved from one section to another. But you hastily made your decision within seconds. Still taken by, handed your order to Baxter, who replied with a blushy, smiling emoji. An excellent choice. I'll be waiting in the lobby for the delivery then. Make your way down there as soon as you're able. Take care. After sending the last text, you tucked your phone away and hurried to your room. Good shoes were a must when it came to hikes, along with a full water bottle. With the weather and the time of day being what it was, you hoped you might catch the last strikes of the cold morning air before the afternoon really set in. Once you were satisfied you had everything, once you were satisfied you had everything you needed, you returned to the front of the hotel. The lobby was as oh my god. Because, like, there's no real way I can break this up, like I usually do with big words. Because they're either gonna be pronounced as Hava New Hava Newsai, which doesn't make much sense to me. Or Cave. Oh, it's gotta be Cave and Newsai. That's how we're going with it. I don't care no more. I'm so tired of random words that just pop up, making me have to go to Google. One thing I don't like. That's a joke. I like using Google. Haven Newsly. Haven Newsly? Tell me how to freaking pronounce it, please. Everyone doesn't want to tell me how to pronounce. Cavanously? Cavanously. Sound it out. It just doesn't always work. Sylvie was as cavanously vacant as ever, so it wasn't hard to find the back of a distinct head of black and white hair near the fireplace with the bag of what were potentially sandwiches. Yet you were certain it wasn't Baxter. It couldn't have been. Sure, his shoes were black, the pants were dark grey. He had a grey bag, too, which added to the side of the pneumatic. But the shirt. His shirt. I still can't. Take this in, people. You won't see it forever. Oh, I keep taking the microphone off my dressing gown. That man was wearing khaki. I did it again. It was as if he found a cryptid in the flesh. You never thought you would see the day where Baxter Ward was wearing a color that wasn't, well, he wasn't wearing any color at all. Of course, you knew it wasn't actually a stranger with the same unique hairstyle and his body type, but it was hard not to joke about it. Baxter turned at the sound of your footsteps. Ah, Callie. He grinned. George hence. Baxter probably would have been more comfortable trotting around the lobby in nothing more than his presumably black and white underwear. I can imagine that now, and I don't remember seeing that. Oh god. He was the guy that described skinny dipping as invigorating after all. I didn't know beige was the new shade of black and white. The teasing edge to your voice did nothing to add any The teasing edge of your voice did nothing to add any levity to the situation, as Baxter looked, for a change, truly embarrassed by the situation. He took a deep breath. A very deep breath, with his eyes closed and his hand unintentionally tightening its grip around the bag. His answer finally came out in the same exhale. I only brought one shirt that was suitable for a hike with me on this trip. I had been certain I wouldn't need more than that. He looked away, hand brushing through his hair again as he worked to find the words. After you left, I found this among my things. Baxter grimaced. He looked at the errant shirt as if he had been hit with a splash from a mud pile. As if he had been hit with a splash of... My god. As if he had been hit with a splash of... With a splash from a mud pile. Puddle. No, we're going to do this. Baxter grimaced. He looked at the errant shirt as if he had been hit with a splash from a mud puddle. And, regrettably, I did not find anything else. This is the shirt I brought for the outdoor activities. The fates would have it that I only found out when there was no time to run out and get a replacement, thus leaving me with a few remaining options. A formal button-down, one of my designer tops, dog pajamas, or... He gestured to the khaki shirt with both finality and defeat. So, you own it? Baxter shook his head, emphatically. The light in his eyes betrayed his expression. With some delight, at least you found his misfortune entertaining enough to part at.
Never.
No. I supposed I must have accidentally stolen it from a roommate. I don't know who else would own a khaki button-down other than that prep. My memories of the final pack in that dorm before I set out to California are easy to say the least. I had believed at the time I took a pale gray, dirty cotton shirt for occasions like this. The low lighting and my waning focus in the moment betrayed me. Of course, morning Baxter struck again. Sighing, he straightened the attire. If he was going to be unpresentable, it should at least be decently so. The sandwich bag fell against his hip as his eyes met yours. I must ask you to keep this a secret, Callie. Sure, but just know I'll be saving this info as blackmail. He snorted, though the tension in his forehead relaxed with the suggestion.
Thank you.
At least you are considerate enough to call it blackmail. As unhappy as his predicament was, there was something undeniably sweet about the fact that he hurried at the risk of keeping you waiting. The collar of his shirt was crumpled, and parts of it were wrinkled, likely from the hasty packing, after he finally discovered the horrible mistake. The latter can be fixed without an iron, but at least the collar could be smoothed over. He reached out instinctively to fix it, incidentally brushing gently against the side of his neck as you straightened out the crease. Pale skin flushed with the sudden warmth, pinking as your fingertips fell against the throat. Pale skin flushed with the sudden warmth, pinking as your fingertips fell against the hollow of his throat. His outer mouth bobbed, his breath hitching in his throat. Now a blushing Baxter in khaki. His embarrassment managed to ease into laughter. Baxter covered his mouth to stifle the chuckles that echoed through the empty foyer. You tried your best to keep from cackling any more than you already did at his poor beige influence expense. Well, regardless of what color I may be wearing, beige. He raised an eyebrow before directing a pair of rolling eyes your way. Right. We should still be able to continue with our plans. It isn't as though anyone will see me in public. Who knows? Who will the trees tell? Nobody. But remember, I'll always know what happened.
You know,
Contrary to my belief, my ego will endure. Besides what? He turned to face you, then the first genuine smile you'd seen out of him all day curved on his lips. A free hand fell solemnly on your shoulder by comparison, and gave it a gentle squeeze. No one will ever believe you. Shaking your head, you adjusted the straps of your bag on your shoulders. Little does he know, we're gonna end up taking photos. I have good blackmail evidence. Okay, if you're done. Baxter gave you a wild, wary glance, as if he was oh my god, my English at 1:30 in the morning. I shouldn't be cackling too loudly. I might wake my father. Which is why I'm trying to stay as quiet as possible, especially in a modern voice. Baxter gave you a wild, wary glance, as if to say he was already greatly limited in how much he could have gone on about it. We can head out? Let's. Baxter's voice will most likely be my monotone voice because of that situation as well. But that does also mean I don't have to do much change, but I'll see what I do. I never actually ended up learning how to sound more formal and Baxter-like. Oh well. I'm pretty sure that was already being able to tell, considering I lied, and I do back-to-back videos, whenever possible. He packed away the sandwiches into the bigger, properly grey bag, really ending his own about the state of his attire. Once he was certain the food was not liable to be flattened, Baxter gestured you to follow him out of the hotel and onto the nearby trail behind the building. The path initially was paved and clearly marked as you continued at a leisurely pace. It eventually narrowed into a larger path of evergreen trees and being ground. It is very beautiful, I will say. The mountain air was sharper than the sea breeze you were so used to. Instead of salt, you could smell pine in between the wafts of so liberally applied sunscreen. With the pleasant breeze and coolness from the stream, the weather was more ideal for a hike. Trees' brow provided cover too, hiding you both from the high afternoon sun. Foliage rustled at your feet as your shoes kicked up the fallen turf. The path wasn't big enough for you to walk side by side, so Baxter took the front. After so prolonged silence, he spoke up.
perfect.
I'm glad this trail matches what I saw online. It seemed like an easy hike. As it lacks steep inclines, the path ahead is clear. Oh, that's too bad. A more invigorating trail would have been great. I'll have to keep that in mind then. He hastened his walk as if to create more of a chance for you in lieu of an arduous path. Now what? But look at Mr. Mountaineer over here. You hike a lot. He turned his gaze up to the canopy, considering the question for a moment as his leaves crunched underfoot, and the path sloped uphill. I don't go often, but I am quite used to it if that is the question. I am not sure if I would consider it among my personal hobbies, but I'm not averse to it.
I love it.
I welcome the opportunity, in fact, when it is available. Me too. It's cool that we have that in common. I agree. It's wonderful. It is a wonderful thing to have. I thought you took off then, but no, I agree. It is a wonderful thing to have something we can enjoy together. Though I would not call myself a mountaineer proper. He chuckled, stopping in place at a partial ascent. Baxter glanced over his shoulder at you and watched for any signs of difficulty with your footing. I may be fit to impress on a day hike similar to this, but I knew some people who could truly call themselves wilderness aficionados. The types you see in a reality survival show. I'd wager in the Alaskan wilds fighting a bear for salmon. You paint such beautiful pictures with your words. Thank you. And speaking of the Murrays, the parents and their two teens, who would regularly go on backpacking trips that would last days, and they would sleep outside in the middle of the woods.
Certainly.
What's more, they enjoy rappelling down cliff sides. Certainly, they had safety gear, but I can't fathom willingly going to such degrees. Or, rather, it might be more apt to say I can't imagine them surviving them. Baxter continued on about some of the Murray's exploits, a little of his own reservations about anything else under the sun, including scuba diving. Though you had plenty to say about that between Mr. Holden's entire business and living so close to the ocean. It wasn't long before you decided to stop for lunch. It had already been a few hours since you had breakfast, and Baxter hadn't eaten anything yet for the day. There weren't any picnic tables along the path, so the task fell to you to find somewhere to take a break. That happened to be the case when you saw a nice sunny spot with some nice flat rocks first. How about we take a lunch break over there? Following your raised arm, Baxter eventually nodded in agreement. The two of you headed over to the stones and shrugged your packs off. After digging through his bag's contents, he produced two sandwiches and handed over yours. The crinkling sound of beeswax paper unwrapping announced the start of lunch. I finally went to the Redwoods when I was a kid. You been? Baxter shook his head, taking another bite out of his meal, as he bid you to continue. We went in an RV with the Holdens, and had sandwiches then too. But a bird stole Mr. Holden's, and he chased after that bird like it was his last meal.
Really?
Really now? Ma tried to tell him that we had literally 1,000 ingredients to make more, but he was so sure he could get it. So he kept chasing after it, and the story trailed on longer than you intended. But Baxter was interested every step of the way. While stuffing your face, even conversation fell off the list of priorities. Baxter followed your lead and dedicated himself to his own sandwich. Real sounds was avoided thanks to the delightful world around you. The rustle of leaves, the bubbling of water, even a small songbird flitted by overhead before landing on a nearby branch. It seemed to stare directly at you and chirped. It was so picturesque that it belonged on a postcard. For the mundane activity of eating lunch, it was almost too much. Could one be overly serene? I can't believe we're really here. Baxter let out a small snort as you further inspected your surroundings with disbelief.
I get it.
It's suddenly off the beaten path. He polished off his sandwich first, then wiped his fingers on a paper napkin. He'd been certain to pack those. I'm enjoying it somewhat because this is so different than what I've been doing thus far. I look around and see nothing familiar. Perhaps I'm being fanciful, but this almost feels dreamlike. Huh. He understood where he was coming from. Upon this mountain, your everyday life felt so far away. It was far away. You travel miles to be here. This time you are both far from home, and in the middle of the unfamiliar. It was nature's domain, untamed and untamed in different ways than your experience with the ocean. Yeah, I think I get it. It doesn't seem to fit with what I normally do when I'm away. Baxter reached out and grabbed a leaf from the ground, twirling it around with his fingers. Exactly. As you worked on finishing your lunch, a heavy weight dropped on your shoulder. After a beat, you realized it was just Baxter leaning on you, apparently having finished lunch and making himself comfortable. His eyes were closed, dark lashes especially apparent against his cheekbones, and lips parting softly with quiet breaths. For a second you wondered if he fell asleep again, until he spoke up as if already aware of the fact he wanted to ask. This is nice. It wasn't much of an answer, though he did crack an eye open to look at you from his perch. Yeah, it is. Closed his eye again, this time burrowing his cheek a little closer into the hollow between your shoulder and your head. Are you tired? Baxter considered the suggestion for a second, then nodded slowly against your shoulder. If you'll let me stay away? Yes. All right.
Thank you.
Why, thank you.
You know,
The forest that I grew up with had different foliage. At least 60% of the plants growing here only exist in this climate. That doesn't sound real.
what?
Why would you say that? Is the forest not unique enough for you? He paused, giving you a moment to consider the special charms of the plants. You weren't convinced. Fine, you are correct, of course. He grinned like a Cheshire cat, self-satisfied and smug. His eyes glittered with amusement. I entirely made that up off the top of my head. Although, since I know truly nothing about California's wildlife, it may reflect reality after all. Probably not. But I can't rule it out completely. You laughed at his response. He was so blunt about it. At your mouth, his grin grew wider, and he regaled you with other fake nature facts. He spoke about the California mountain hare. The California mountain hare, the only North American rodent that ate a large diet of bees, and was entirely made up by a man who normally dressed in monochrome. But the meal was over by that point, and you did have a trek ahead before you could return to the hotel. Is he the California hare? I didn't realize Baxter was made up of bees. Or 8 bees. Baxter separated himself from your shoulder, perky as ever. Trash and scraps thrown in the delivery bag, Baxter stuffed it back in his normal bag.
Good.
Leave no trace. Yeah, we can have her in those 60% of plants that may or may not only be found here. With everything stowed away, the two of you slid off the rock and rejoined the path. Both you and Baxter were fully recharged from the lunch break. You continued the hike steadily, keeping a good pace. Without warning, Baxter rooted himself in the middle of the path. Oh, look at that. He jogged his head and you followed his gaze. Further out on his side, the trail was a stream flowing swiftly. But you immediately knew that was part of the scene that caught his attention. Laying across the banks, a tree had fallen to create a natural bridge. You stepped around him to get a better vantage point. The trunk had to be 3 feet thick and covered in vibrant green moss. Leaves had long fallen from the few remaining branches. Baxter's bright eyes stayed on it, and he grinned all the while.
Exciting.
One moment, please. I need to walk across that. It's too perfect to simply pass on by. He took a large step and promptly left the path. A twig snapped. Yes, I want to do that too.
Glad to hear it.
Then follow me. Let us proceed on our tortuous adventure. He slowed down so you could catch up. He led the way to the stream, warning you of the various obstacles he had dodged on the forest floor. Finally, he skipped over some stones, then squeezed himself between a group of thick bushes. His efforts were surprisingly graceful. You clambered onto the rocks behind him, and took a moment to assess the bushes yourself. Going all the way around would be a hassle. There was a small gap under one of the bushes, but unless you were prepared to pull under it, you didn't think you'd fit. You followed Baxter's path, lightly bending a few branches out of your way. You got through without any scratches. Now through the gauntlet. Catching up with Baxter was easy. This was close to the stream bank, it was mostly more stones and short grasses. Baxter solidly placed a foot on the tank, suspended over it. He tested his weight, then rocked his heel to shake the bridge. The tree gave no sign of giving under pressure. No matter what he did, it wasn't budging.
Excellent.
Excellent. The safety check complete, he gingerly lifted his other foot and stood fully on the collapsed trunk. Even if he was stuck, the wood had to be slick. Which round wasn't an ideal combination. Your forehead crinkled. Baxter showed no concern for that, and walked further along an inch at a time until he was above the water. One wrong move and he would be in the river. He enthusiastically climbed on. Even with you jumping on, it was unmoved by the soft human bodies. He went across the stream with his arms out, and light steps, heel toe, heel toe. It was almost like he was floating on air, his movements smooth and assured. You weren't having any trouble either. You shimmied along after Baxter with confidence. The tree was more scared of you than you were of it. When the moss grew thick over the trunk and squished under your shoe, however, it was firmly attached and your foot never slipped. As long as you didn't falter, you kept your balance. The log was large enough that even with how round it was, you had plenty of room. When you reached the halfway point, directly over the heart of the stream, Baxter paused.
Is that fine?
Sorry to block the path. It would take a minute here. Sure. He twisted, pivoting his feet so he'd face the water. You copied him, and breathed in the beauty. Together you stood on top of a fallen tree, as the stream flowed right underneath. The water was clear. Tiny fish darted in and out of hiding places. It was its own little universe, tucked away in the top of the mountain. Your hand found Baxter's. You took hold of him, and he squeezed back. Then you kissed him on the lips. You leaned closer to him, careful of your positions on the tree bridge. It wouldn't do to smooch your boyfriend off a tree. He tilted his face towards you, giving you perfect access to your target. You kissed him on his lips, much to his delight. He kissed you back sweetly before pulling away with a smile. I'm quite grateful for my impeccable balance in cases like this. Are you really gonna tell me stuff like this happens to you on the... I got so close, but regularly screwed me over, and I'm taking a drink now. Are you really going to tell me, like... Oh my god. Are you really going to tell me that stuff like this happens to you regularly? I'm not gonna tell you anything other than... Well, you'd be surprised. He watched a mischievous-filled grin. At this point, I'm starting to accept whatever from you. It's easier that way.
Good.
Good. You considered asking for more details, and doubted that he would elaborate. Suddenly, there was a splash in the stream below. A ripple spread across the water, but the cause of it remained a mystery. There was nothing to be seen. Baxter restored his attention to the log. He tapped on the trunk, kicking off the loose remnant of bark. We don't actually need to go all the way across. Nothing particularly enthralling is over there.
Bravo.
I've enjoyed our little tryst very much, but I believe it's the kind call. Alright, You led the charge off the tree, Baxter's hand warming yours. You both kept each other grounded until you actually reached the ground. That was magical. It truly was fantastical. Remember how at lunch I mentioned that all of this reminded me of a dream? Up above the rushing water, standing in a sunbeam deep in the woods. I cannot imagine a more picturesque scene. Back to the trail. You nodded and started squeezing your way past the vegetation in your way. Baxter followed you for a change. Finally, the path was under your feet. It was faster than trekking directly through overgrowth. On we go! As your hike resumed, Baxter's jaunty attitude stood out. This entire trip he seemed different, more light-hearted. Usually when he was in a playful mood, it was more teasing. He was still very controlled, but out here, now, it wasn't the same. Maybe because he was in the middle of nowhere, he felt extra free. Or maybe because he had already broken character with his unintentionally stolen shirt. Or, this was the strangest possibility to consider. Maybe it was entirely normal for him to act like this and you didn't know. Gradually it grew darker and darker. Less light made it through the canopy of leaves above you. The sun slipped behind the surrounding mountains. It was well into the evening when you called outside the hotel. Ah, we've arrived.
To be honest,
Honestly, I'm having many regrets. His tone was light and jokey, but there was something boldly truthful to his words. I should have reserved the rooms for much longer. Everything is ending much too soon for my taste. He rubbed a hand through his hair, exhaustedly sweeping it back into place. However, at this point there is no helping it. Live and learn, Baxter. You returned to the warm lights of the lobby. Plush red carpet squished you in strangely decadent way compared to how gross you felt from jumping all the way around the wood all day. Yep, that made sense. Baxter halted you mid-stride with a question. What are your plans now? You hadn't thought that far, but Baxter didn't pause long enough for you to answer. If you are willing, we could eat together. For example, I heard room service here is divine. We could go somewhere else, but I'd require a few minutes to change. I don't mind hiding away from the public with you. So yeah, he most likely bought that suit because he mentioned a formal button-down shirt or something like that. But that isn't actually an option. Which is interesting to me. I don't mind hiding away from the public with you. You discovered my evil plan. He sighed dramatically as he chuckled at his fake scheme. As you chuckled at his fake shame. I should have expected you to figure me out. My true desire is returning to the room and relaxing rather than cleaning up at this hour of night. No worries. I'm not judging.
that's wonderful.
I appreciate it. Now, once you order food, then tonight will be perfect. Perhaps I'll have a salad. I swear it's not because we've been surrounded by leaves all day. Your stomach gurgled at the mention of food. The new plan was just in time, and you headed straight up to Baxter's room. He led the way to his suite, like the hotel was the back of his hand, though it was a simple layout. But under his confident guidance, he reached the destination and he dropped your bags on the floor and counted enough with a thump. Baxter spread his now free arms widely to welcome you in. Please take a seat wherever you like. Baxter moved towards the nightstand and scrounged up a pamphlet on the hotel services. You sat down at the side table. What the fuck's the side table? Is the side table just someone we can't see? Who knows? Maybe it's another thing for nightstand? I don't know. Baxter flipped through the booklet until he spied the menu. Found it! He joined you around the table and placed the menu down so both of you could read it. At a glance, most of the options were classic comfort foods. It matched the cabin in the woods aesthetic that the hotel was going for. However, it had a sprinkling of more high-end options to cater to a certain set of clientele. It can be understated how weird the concept of canned lobster in a hotel was. All entrees came with seasonal veggies, a homemade roll. In addition, you could pick from a side of mashed potatoes, fries, French onion soup, or a salad. Baxter was hemming and hawing as he did when spoiled for choice. You could only hope it wasn't much of a struggle for him as choosing which ice cream to get. The ice cream thing is gonna be stuck with us for days. You consider the options for yourself and decide on. So I'm wondering what he will say if we did the exact same thing as he did. And I know what his usual order is, because I played this twice. This is my third time doing the backflip playthrough. And yeah, twice. I have 2 other saves on my personal computer. One is for my book, and one is for my YouTube stream that I'm supposed to do with Al at some point. It was originally supposed to go to Twitch, but you know, Twitch doesn't like me because it does delays everything for so long, and I'm dealing with that baloney. So we're deciding to do it for YouTube at some point, and then we need to make sure our schedules align. Right, risotto is what Baxter has. As for a side, you picked your favorite from the list. My favorite is fries. I'm doing my least favorite. I also don't like risotto. What a coincidence! I'll also be requesting the risotto. We even both want side salads. Our meals are identical. You know what they say about 2 great minds thinking alike. Of course, rules also rarely differ, but I don't think fools order risotto with side salads. We're both can of olive leaves. Indeed. Baxter confirmed your order again, as well as repeating his own, before spawning over to the room phone, dialed the room service, and placed the order promptly.
Goodbye.
Yes, thank you. Goodbye. So what? He just goes, hi, yes. I'd like 2 risotto and 2 side salads, please. Thank you. But he hung up the call and sat down on the corner of the bed. He tapped his fingers on his leg. All that was left was to wait. He decided to spend the time cooling down from the hike and clean up a bit. Baxter cranked the AC and washed his face with a damp towel. He collected a bucket of ice from the hallway ice machine and treated himself to some crisp water. About 30 minutes after the order was put in, a knock rattled at the door. Baxter volunteered to get it. I mean, it is his room. Hello. He opened the door and let in the waiting staff member. The employee rolled in the cart carrying literal silver platters. They set out the food on the table for you. Please enjoy your dinner. Let us know if you need anything else. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Privately, you're impressed by the fanciness of the presentation. The staff member made their farewells, leaving you to your meal. You reconvened around the table once more.
Well.
This food comes from a restaurant in the hotel. It's not a small operation preparing it. Oh? Cutting and chewing happened in turns. The topic inevitably came to your preference for food. Everyone talks about fries and ice cream going together well, but honestly they're missing out on the obvious. Fries and whipped cream are even better. It's still the sweet and salty combination, but you don't have to deal with cold fries. Now, see, I've never had a fries with ice cream until this, or fries with cream, and that makes me want to try both of them out. But I don't know what kind of ice cream to go with, like vanilla, chocolate, caramel, Ben & Jerry's. I think vanilla would make more sense, but I prefer chocolate ice cream. I don't like vanilla that much. Another thing is, I usually eat fish fingers with custard, and inevitably I have chips with that. So, I can confirm that fish fingers and custard are good together, and so are chips and custard. You can call me weird, but, I am British. Doctor Who exists. And Doctor Who eats fish fingers and custard. Though, their version was actually dessert food rather than fish fingers itself. But if they tried fish fingers, they might have actually realized they were onto something. I don't like fish fingers though. That's the irony. I don't like fish. I don't like seafood in general. But I have a bag of fish fingers I need to finish, but I don't have custard on my end. Well, that happens, or I just throw them away. Well, that happens first, really. Like that you get a bag of custard. But we really only don't. We rarely get custard, actually. That it wasn't even the first strange food he brought up in the conversation. He started with something innocuous and slipped in the oddity to watch your reaction. How many were real and how much fell into the 60% unique plans, i.e., complete utter nonsense? Now I want to Google something. Oh my god! As soon as I turn my phone off and go on to continue on, now I have to Google some fries with. Okay, yeah, that's actually real. Hi, fries. Okay. I'll have to try it. You mean could call room service again? Back to snort in delight. You were tempted to push it even further and go for the phone. If you desire, who am I to stop you? But we may want to finish what we have first. We shouldn't let it go to waste. Fine. After many food admissions that made Baxter either the king of weird taste buds or a reigning jester, dinner came to an end. When you glanced at the clock, you found that it was only later than you would have guessed. It'd been a long day. Sitting back in your chair, you stretched your arms up. Your legs were feeling the effects of trespassing uphill for miles. A yawn bubbled when your phone rang. Who'd be calling you at this time? You pulled out your phone to check if it was anything that mattered or a spam call. Liz's name showed up on screen. Right. Of course. Your sister wouldn't wait any longer for the mandatory check-in. You were late. At least she hadn't jumped straight to calling the police.
In that case...
You're welcome to answer if you'd like. I can give you privacy. No, it's my sister. You don't have to go anywhere. You tap the screen to answer the call and put on speaker. That way the both of you could say hello. What's up, Liz?
Hey.
Surprise check-in, Callie. Are you still alive? Did that Victorian-era emo man give you any trouble? He's not a Victorian-era emo man. Your denial was quick and empathetic. Maybe you accepted Baroque or goth, but didn't Liz remember the existence of emo bangs? Without the bangs, could anyone really be emo? Baxter was already leaning on the table with his elbows propped on the counter. Now he lazily rested his hand on one of his fists.
Hello.
Hello. That's certainly a unique description. I can't say I've ever heard the likes of it before. Oh. He paused. He was now aware that she'd said that in front of the so-called Victorian emo, the Victorian era emo man.
So what?
I stand by it. Hello to you, Baxter. I'm making sure that everything is well with my little sibling. You'll understand. I do, completely. Fine. So again, what are you doing? We just had room service for dinner. Sheesh. Lucky. I had to make my own dinner like a peasant. Sucks for you.
Jeez.
Brad, you have room service once you're... Brad, you had room service once, and now you're lording it over me. You had a tongue click disapprovingly. Let my sweet baby sibling go. On vacation. That is something I probably would say, actually. I've called some of my friends peasants before, but there's a reason for that. And if anyone knows me, and I might have mentioned it in videos before, with my character that I have created, for the sole purpose of Minecraft, for a Minecraft SMP that kind of just fell through the cracks, because I kind of ended up bending it after deciding to pull out with Minecraft yet again. It's also why I haven't posted anything Minecraft related on my channel for a while. And I had problems with my computer. Well, my character is essentially God. She's also a queen, and is called people peasants. They're also she, they. Like I am. Though she is an arsonist, and will gladly betray anyone. I will say my Halloween episode, which obviously came out way long ago. Feel free to go back and watch it. Though I was recording this, I haven't recorded that yet, so it's fresh for me to talk about. In my Halloween episode, a true characteristic of what I wanted her to be shows up in it. I won't go into detail, you guys can go watch that video yourselves. On vacation without any peasants, the two of you shot out a few more snipes at each other. None were meant to strike anywhere lethal. It was all in good fun. Baxter watched with increasing entertainment. Anyways, you're clearly still breathing, so I'll let you go.
Bye.
See you tomorrow, kiddo. Yeah. See you too.
Take care.
Yes, take care. I will. Make sure you take care of them. That could go in multiple ways, Liz. There's the do no harm and actually take care of this person that is currently in your care, and the dirty route. My mind went to neither. It's just something that exists, and literally my mind went to neither. I was just like, fuck's sakes. There are two implications, and I hate that I know that. But I am an adult. So I guess that kind of makes sense. I don't know, it's hard to explain. On that slightly threatening note, Liz hung up. Oh yeah. Threatening ways as well. Liz hung up. Marcia's lips twitched upwards. Your family is charmingly protective. I realize that more and more every day. I'm usually not like this. It's just unusual circumstances. I imagine. I am nearly a stranger, and I cannot deny that I'm imposing a great deal on your 3 hours. It's good to be cautious.
Honestly.
And truly, I do like your family. At least as much as I can tell from the little we've interacted. Speaking of, he lifted his head, and his hand fell under his chin instead. He furrowed his brow. In general, I would never dare to be this presumptuous, but I cannot deny that I am deeply curious about you as a person. So, I'll venture to ask if you will be willing to share more about your family history. Oh. It made sense. Your family wasn't a mother and father who had children born to them. He knew that much. There were more ways than one that you could all come together. You didn't remember ever explaining anything to him. That's fine. I don't mind talking about it. You could at least give him the highlights. Baxter humored many of your questions about him. Getting to know each other better was a two-way street. I'm adopted. Liz is too. We're from different places, and we're adopted at different times. We weren't even born in the same country. It's amazing we met each other at all. But we were both really young. We spent most of our entire lives together.
I see.
I see. Well, it's fascinating. Well, it's fantastic how you made your own beautiful family. Thanks, Baxter. His words made you feel warm inside. You respect how easily he took it. It made you wonder about his family situation. He had been rather close-mouthed about it so far. And again, the two-way street analogy came to mind. Are you and your parents blood-related? Oh, yes, we certainly are. His voice took on a sad and amused bent. His lips stretched thin. My parents might as well have been through with me many times over if I wasn't their in flesh and blood. Before you could ask what he meant by that, he chuckled. Sorry. No. That is me being dramatic. Their family and I'm their son. What matters is that at the end of the day, blood related or not. Okay. It's nice your parents care about you. You wouldn't voice the flicker of worry. I'm thankful for that as well. Now, if I wasn't the boy they raised together in any capacity, then there would be problems. He laughed over some more and brought his fingers to his lips. That topic was over. Well, he pulled the collar of his roommate's shirt. His gaze searched out the room's ticking clock.
Good night.
It has been a delightful day, but I should not linger forever. There is much to do tomorrow. Good night, Callie. He stood with a slight wave. He grabbed his bag together. Baxter, this is your room. Where are you going? Suddenly flustered, Baxter scratched the back of his zebra head, or piano head, as the wise bartender once said. Baxter then grinned down at you. That is correct. He stiffly returned to his chair and said, with one knee held up to his chest. Then I will, in fact, stay right here. You, however, are welcome to go when you are ready. You cackled and got to your feet, sprang from further embarrassment. With you moving to leave, Baxter found his shoes very interesting. I hope you get some sleep. Baxter hesitated to reply. He paused, sensing he would answer. He just needed a little more time to choose the right words. Well? Hang on a second. I think I heard something else with that. Oh. The static. I hear it now. I think I've been listening a little too closely to the voices in my head, but I now hear the static. In the well. I think you have to, really pay any attention to what the voice actors say to actually hear static in the dialogue. Well, I do intend to sleep. But in truth, I don't expect it will be soon. I'll be packing after you take your leave, and after that, who knows? That's a lot of words to build mystery. What do you mean? Baxter chuckled and tapped his foot. I said, who knows, didn't I? He crossed her arms, unimpressed. He snorted at you. It was difficult, even a straight face. You'd better explain it soon.
All right.
Okay. That's not entirely correct. Okay, that's not exactly correct, I'll admit. I know myself fairly well. I also am aware of the drink station in the lobby that is open every hour. There's also a fire that stays lit throughout the night as well. I'm expecting that the lobby will be I'm expecting that instead of being in bed like a proper young man, I will end up in the lobby with a cup of tea. Would you mind some company? Hot drinks by the fire sounded lovely. You hoped that he was fine if you wanted it down yourself.
Oh?
Oh? He narrowed his eyes, and his smile curved up more. Am I the bad influence here, or are we enablers to one another? Enablers. Yes, I thought so. Well, we haven't gone off the rails yet, so I believe we should be fine. His amusement was tangible, and you were already looking forward to the next outing. I'll text you when I made it to the lobby. His eyes twinkled with a familiar mischief. You'll keep your phone close.
See you.
Good night, Callie. For now. With that, you twisted the handle and left. You made it to your own room. You made it to your own identical room, conveniently right next door. The door's deadbolt clicked shut behind you, and you clicked on the lights. Despite the new illumination, the suite was not as bright as Baxter's room. How was Baxter's room so lively while yours was this? You sat on your cold bed inside. A familiar carpet was spread beneath your feet. The walls were a match. The pictures were attached to the wall. Physically, there wasn't a difference. The change was the fact that you were by yourself. After spending all day with Baxter's grin, you were lonely in its absence. But at least that wouldn't last long. You'd see Baxter again soon, one way or another. The last and only full day of your mini vacation was drawing to a close, and the warm night pressed black and silent against the window panes. You tucked yourself in bed for a break, but had left all the room lights on. You didn't want to fall asleep yet. Naturally. You idled the minutes away by counting the planks in the ceilings. It was like counting sheep. Eventually there was a jingle of a text arriving. Unlocking your phone, you saw Baxter send you a message. It was short and to the point. I'm downstairs. He'd finally finished his packing. There was no need to respond. He knew you were coming. He wiggled out from under the covers and hopped off the bed, eager for the secret meeting. He crept into the hall, which was brightly lit. Although all the other patrons were holed up in their rooms for the night, no staff was manning the front desk. It was dead quiet and still. You patted your way downstairs. The omnipresent silence seemed like it was something you could touch. A thin blanket swaddled you. Your footsteps and breathing felt muffled. In spite of all that, the air was very cold. The grand foyer had high ceilings. The mezzanine floors and wide open space invited the permanent drift. The central fireplace might have come totally pointless in the middle of the summer California, but that wasn't given its due. Now blazing bravely against the chill, it was a welcome beacon of comfort. Surrounding the hearth was a raised stone platform. There you could see a lone seated figure, sitting against the flames. There was Baxter, warming himself by the fire. A paper cup was clutched in his hands, a pale film of steam rising from it. Kind changed into his pajamas, still sporting that khaki interloper. He must have counted on nobody else being around to see that. He must have counted on nobody else being around to see the horror that late. The thud of feet and carpet heralded your approach. His portrait smoothly transitioned from a profile to a three-quarter view. His eyes met yours, and he grinned. Callie, glad you could make it. Me too. Those endless stairs almost had me beat. A wicked set of stairs, aren't they? You're lucky to arrive in one piece. rolling the thin cup slowly between his palms. Baxter jerked his head over to one side, drawing your attention to the long table against the far wall.
Very well.
The drink station is over there. If you care to partake, a beverage of some kind might just be the thing to top off our late night rendezvous. Still think. I'll just be a sec. After crossing the lobby, you stood in front of the refreshment bar. It was covered in a thick tablecloth, the color of fresh snow, and a neat arrangement of clean crockery had been laid out on top. There were a couple of jugs of hot water, and a wide selection of different drink packets and individual tea bags. Next to those were two more urns of pre-made coffee that had been labeled regular and decaf. A carafe off to one side of seemed to spice apple cider. The mirage of liquid containers was complete with three smaller silvery ones, each containing different kind of milk. They weren't stingy on options, that was for sure. You decided to go for chamomile tea, especially if it's late night and you're trying to go to sleep. Chamomile tea is like really good for you. And like I know that my dad drinks it, like at night. Well, really, anytime after dinner time is when he starts drinking chamomile tea. And for so long, I could never pronounce chamomile tea, so I would always try to pronounce it, stop, and then just go like, "You want some blue box tea?" And he would understand what I'm on about, because I could never say chamomile. And now I can say chamomile, but I still occasionally refer to it as blue box tea, because it's tea in a blue box. I don't know how much more obvious I can make it, but with green tea and peppermint tea, they're in the same color of green box. I can't really go, would you like green box tea? I actually have to be specific with those. But, quite frankly, nobody in this household drinks green tea. Only my aunt, who occasionally comes over, and I need to cook her Sunday, because she's going to attempt to get me out of the house and into a car to try and learn to drive, and I will not do that. I will avoid her at all costs to make sure I get out of trying to learn how to drive in an empty parking lot. I do not like my aunt, and that is personal preference. I also have no intention of learning to drive because I know how crap my memory is. Believe me, I crashed a golf cart once. Not golf cart, a go-kart once. Before learning how to wheel it, if I want transportation, I will ride a bike. But my feet have gotten me far enough. I like walking. Sure, cars are useful, but I don't like going out in the rain, so I don't really need to learn how to drive. That's how I see it anyway. You picked up a cup, tore open the satchel, and let hot water run into it. The liquid turned a pale yellow, and the sweet earthly smell of chamomile wafted lazily upwards. You snapped a lid on the drink. You snapped on a lid and ambled over to the fireplace again, Baxter raising his drink to gently tap against yours. Welcome back. What's your poison? Oh, you went for peppermint. Yeah, I want to match with him. But I want to match with Baxter for this one. For no particular reason. And I know that I just went on talk about how no one in my house drinks peppermint and green tea. But my dad drinks chamomile. But I want to match with Baxter. I've matched with him with dinner. I want to do that again with the drinks. My go-to is actually hot chocolate. I know how to make that by scratch. You picked up a cup, tore open the satchel, and let hot water run over it. The liquid turned a very pale green, and the refreshing scent of mint was like a particularly soothing kick to the nostrils. I also now have to hope that my dad and aunt don't end up like, or any of my videos actually. I diss my aunt in a few of them. But then again, I've just never really clicked with I click better with my dad's side of the family than my mom's. Than my mom's parents. I click with them nicely and my dad's mom. My dad and my mom's sister. I don't click with. Probably because I've had to live with her and deal with her for a lot of my life. And usually, typically, with family, it's you'll live with your parent, or parents if you're lucky, and you don't see your aunts and uncles and cousins as often. Or your grandparents as often. That's the case with my dad's side of the family, which is probably why I click with them more. But I also don't see my nan and granddad as often. I've moved house. But I wish I could go and actually be useful, but my nan said that I probably wouldn't be able to squeeze past the front door. So, unfortunately, I can't be of assistance to them. Very sad. It would have gone me out of seeing my aunt. Oh, my friends know that I don't like her either. Which is funny. I have no disrespect. I have no disrespect for my friends. Or my dad's side of the family. Or my nan and granddad. Or my other cousin. I like my cousin. And I'm invited to his wedding. I don't know if I'm a bridesmaid or not. I'm pretty sure I A-okayed it. But I really don't know. Listen. I'm not asking any questions until close to the date. Which is, like, a year. Well, I checked anyway. Well, in under a year, actually. It would have been a year exactly a couple of days ago. Oh well. You snapped on a lid and ambled over to the fireplace again. Baxter raising his drink to gently tap up against yours. Welcome back. What's your poison? I went for a bracing cup of peppermint. Me myself. Me too. Baxter clinked your cups together for a second time, all smiles. How lovely. We're a match once more. A momentary flash of realization crossed his face, and then he let out a huff of amusement. It appears we find ourselves out drinks again, Callie. I must apologize for the lack of originality. I promise I do other things in my spare time occasionally. I don't know. Baxter twice is a coincidence, but 3 times? That's a pattern. I believe most humans make it a pattern to drink liquids regularly. You snorted quietly into your cup. Maybe. I'll have to look into it. Baxter scooted on his pudge. Baxter scooted over on his pudge, patting the stonework with his free hand to indicate that you should take a seat beside him. You popped yourself in front of the fire, relishing the cozy glow on your skin and the heated slab beneath you. Baxter was staring absently into the grate. As you sat there with him, enveloped in the warmth of the fireplace and the closeness of his presence, you felt safe, sleepy, comfortable, like you could drift off right there and then. And Baxter slowly sipped his tea, and then set his cup down next to him. It's funny. More than once on this little excursion, I found myself again. I'm supposed to be on summer vacation. Especially right now, powder in front of a fire, cradling a cup of something hot. It puts me in the mind of long autumn nights, and the days are beginning to waste away to nothing. And this decor, too, the wood, stone, the grandeur. I might have believed myself to be back in my childhood home in Oregon. Really? He lifted a leg up onto the edge and tucked his knee under his chin. Still all focused on the burning light, his expression was distant, wistful. Yes, it's one of the reasons I chose this hotel. As a matter of fact, though, I've never lived in a building of scale. In fact, it's similar. You could say I was raised in a big, cool house. Cool in the sense it was impressive rather than underheated. That's what my friends used to call it. I loved it when they would come to visit. There was scarcely anything better. They never got over their sense of awe, and I ate it up. I like to think myself special in those days. To be young and innocent. Amen. To be young and innocent. Now no other childhood memories are coming back to me right now. I was so silent. Let's see if I can remember anything else. But nothing's coming to mind. His features melted into a form that was familiar. A curt little smile. How strange. Usually I find indulging in a nostalgia to be unpleasant and never. But here and now, it's easy. And it's nice. I suppose that's because, for one, I can share my thoughts with another person, rather than ruminating on the past by myself. His eyes peeked askance to yours before retiring once more to the flames. You let yourself fully rest against him, one cheek to the side of his head. He leaned into it and gave a sigh of pleasure. You had made him happy. It hasn't been easy to find anyone to reminisce with. Not for a while. But then again, I only developed this sentimentality once I'd gone off to college. I was too young and proud of that sort of matter before then. There wasn't anything in my life to harbor much sentimentality for. I suppose leaving was the catalyst. Isn't it always? But once that part of my mind had developed, there wasn't anyone around to share the emotions with. My classmates and I, we don't have that kind of relationship.
Well.
Now, this may come to a complete shock to you, but I've been told that I can come off as as a bit too forward. I know. It can be hard to believe. Your face cracked into a grin. Understatement of the year, anybody. My intent is always to be open with people so we can connect. It almost never works out that way, though. I have come to terms with the fact that I don't possess an act of making friends. It was obnoxiously easy when I was a child, especially due to the aforementioned big cool house. But now I keep finding myself at a loss for how to do it. With the hit or miss endeavor, the vast majority of the time I come up with a mess. Lately it's been different. Incredibly different. I almost worry my luck won't last. His voice dropped to a low murmur, barely audible over the crackling wood in the grate. It'll all be over soon. It was an echo of what he had said to you after your hike this afternoon, but this time, went one small step further.
I wish I could stay.
I wish I could stay. His eyes were now closed. A shallow crease had appeared in his forehead. You understood that he was talking more about your short stint in this hotel. Keep most of my choices the same. Just change that one thing. You were still conscious of that restlessness when standing by the fireplace. Your blood was hot under your skin and your heart was beating, strong and instant. Your insides were stinging with a kind of want, a desire that took the form of the man in front of you. There was a choice you might make if you dared to ask. Want to come inside for a minute? In my room, I mean. Baxter swiveled one hand still in his pocket. His eyebrow had quacked upwards. His mouth bowed in a sweet V of a smile. What? Missing me already? As much as I hate to say goodbye, it wouldn't be sensible to continue our Paris any later, when you say? We can speak more tomorrow. What if that's the point? To do something not sensible. I don't know whether the mic went at that point. It's a bit hard to lose. It's a bit hard not to lose something. Like, no. It's a bit hard to lose something that's black with a grey head on a black dressing gown. Especially when it's on like the edge part of it, then it just flips back and forth and you don't feel it for a while. You don't look down from the computer for a little while as well. He stared at you for a second or two, frowning slightly. He watched as his porcelain complexion was graded colored with the mere shade of red. His eyes narrowed. I see. He let out an unguarded laugh, like you caught him moment on the back foot. Focus dipped for an instant to your mouth, and he swallowed. If the invitation is open, a brief visit could certainly be arranged. He bound his hand with yours, pulling him over to the door 194. He let himself be led, his grip eager. The other you slipped into the bedroom. Inside, Baxter politely shut the door. Less respectful, rested his spine up against it. His pupils had gone wide in his soft brown eyes. He waited. He took a moment to take it in, the curve of his legs, the boyish set of his shoulders, the swept strands of hair at the nape of his neck. It increased that mingling tension tenfold. A hook at the base of your skull. It tugged you to keep more keenly than ever, perhaps because you know this was temporary. Baxter wouldn't be near enough to touch much longer, but you wanted whatever you could have. He pressed him more eagerly into the door, catching his mouth with yours. He let out a harsh grunt as his head bumped the wood, but it spiraled down several octaves, transmuting into an excited half-groan of pleasure. You pinned him there, your bodies flushed. The kiss was volatile, dangerous even. A heady concussion born of pressure, a heat of short, sharp gasps. Every so often it would slosh over the sides, and the mess part was the enjoyment. He faintly smelled of sweet. I can't not take this seriously and read. He faintly smelled of sweat and shampoo, and there was peppermint on his tongue. Over and above all, there was the full scent that clung to his skin. He had been catching snags of it throughout the day, but had never been able to pinpoint what it was. He knew now he must be wearing cologne. It was obvious that Baxter liked your hands on him, and it was the way he moved underneath your touch, his legs and his head, and his torso shifting in an unconscious dance. Your bodies intertwined in stages. Baxter pressed the back of your head with his slender fingers. His other arm around your waist. Your palms were to his chest, fingers clutching at the shirt fabric. He pulled away briefly at this, apparently tickled by something. You caught a flash of his canines. It's probably too late to attempt this Chateau's rifle blower. I have too many memories wrapped up in it now.
It's settled.
My roommate will simply have to learn without the eyesore. Well, I'll get him a new one. You both shook with suppressed laughter, holding each other in the stillness of your hotel room. You leaned in to press your mouth the mole on his neck. You heard him out a gasp and felt his throat quiver under your tongue. His pulse was there. A rapid, passionate beating. Ah! You glanced up to see his eyes half-lidded, and he peered down at you with an expression of complete fascination. He laughed again, and the sound as clear as a stream.
You're very good.
You sadly know what you're doing, Callie. Before you can continue, there was a squeeze of a hand on your shoulder. Baxter had broken away, his grip tender but firm, face turned, his eyes falling to the door handle beside him. This was only ever intended to be a short encounter. That was the pretext you'd given. It was time to say goodnight for real this time. Okay, I'll let you go now. Baxter nodded slowly, his attention only half there. He remained in a sort of daze from what had transpired. You're experiencing something similar yourself. He inhaled deeply through the nose, closed eyes for a moment, and managed to pull himself together, enough to offer a more confident smile. I hope you can sleep without too much trouble, Callie. Good night. Thank you for the sublime invitation. It's been extraordinary. You invited me here first. Don't forget, I should be thanking you. His eyes twinkled with silent laughter. Mutual sentiment can be a wonderful thing. And with that, he was gone. The door swung shut as he went, the lock engaged with a dull thunk. The sound came clean through the through tension that had strung in the air. Without thinking about it, you found yourself drawn over to the bed. Your head was totally empty. The last thing you registered before surrendering to the embrace of sleep was the cool sensation on your tongue, the lingering taste of peppermint. A new day greeted you suddenly, and without warning, sunshine streaming through the windows. The curtains simply stood there, and let it happen. You'd forgotten to draw them shut. The end of your miniature holiday had come. You promptly got out of bed and began to pack, following your usual routine as best as you could. You didn't end up seeing Baxter again until after 11 o'clock. As promised, he'd taken a lion after buying the midnight oil, and had made a last mad dash in order to check out at noon. Luckily, he managed the departure without too much of an issue. The two of you loaded up the car and set off for home. Home for one of you at least. While you returned to your normal life, Baxter was instead changing one kind of vacation for another. Or maybe, you thought, watching the California landscape drift past the window. Baxter was even his own version of normal back now. The mountainside lodge had been home away from home for him, a sacrum of his life in Oregon, much more familiar than a sleek combo by the sea. You continue to reflect on this as the road rolled out before you. Occasionally you'd swap comments or Baxter on random subjects. At other times retreating into the privacy of your own head. Rapidly your time up on the mountain was fading into memory. You were lucky to decide to have seen a small piece of Baxter. He had entrusted you with a shot of himself. A tiny spark of light shining from somewhere deep inside. You understood him better, even only for a fraction. That was probably the only glimpse of the real life of Baxter Ward that you'd get. And truly, that is the end of summer. Quite literally. This is the last video I ever recorded. Quite sad, too. But now the summer transfer will be happening rather soon. I still have a bit of time before I shall be returned. I'm still far too awake for that. But it is only 1:52 in the morning. I'm glad to have you all here for the last Baxter memory. moment. And, just know that this isn't the last we'll be seeing of Baxter. So, please do not cry over the situation if you guys are already tearing up, because I know I am. And that is why I had to say it myself. I think that my new plan, if I wasn't already in my old plan, that Baxter will be done last. Why? Because I love him. Cove will probably. I probably said that Cove was going to be last or first because of the length of the DLC. What I'm going to do is a Cove sandwich. And do Derek, Cove, Baxter. It'll be the ABC in reverse. With DCB. So with that, I will see you guys in the transitional period. Goodbye for today!